Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
We are speaking with the one and only Perry Farrell. The new box set, gigantic box set, is called the Glitz, the Glamour, available now. And as we say in Montreal, bonjour, Perry. How are you?
I'm doing very well today, Mitch.
Yeah. So what I like about this is that it's 68 tracks, and I was born in 1968, so I almost feel like you've done this for me.
I did.
But you did. See, I thought so. So talk to me about this box set, and let me ask you this first, before I ask you why you did it and how it came about. What was it like for you to sort through your entire career, these different projects from Satellite Party, I should say, to
Satellite Perry.
Yeah, Satellite Party. That's a new band. That's a good good new side project. But what was it like to sort of go through all of this? Because every single project sort of spoke musically differently. What was it like for you to revisit? Did you forget stuff and go, oh yeah, that was kind of cool?
I did forget stuff and listen back to it, and it brought back, memories were rushing back, because the box set is really a retrospective, starting in 1982, something like that is when my first band was. And so the first band, SciComm, is included in it, and it goes all the way through,
Your bass rehearsals going on in the other room.
I know, it's my son upstairs. So my son, over the pandemic, decided he's gonna be a musician.
Really? Actually, So okay, hold on. Before we get back to the box set, let me just talk about that for a second, because you've been in the music business. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
What do you tell your son who wants to go into it? Do you let him face the good, the bad, the ugly, and have his own learning experiences? Or do you take over and say, oh, no, let me look at that contract. Oh, no, don't do. How do you advise him and ultimately kids who want to go into the business?
Yeah. Well, I feel today we're all just chomping at the bit to get out there and perform now.
Mm-hmm.
And his friends come over. He's got all his friends are musicians, basically, kind of like myself. Everybody's basically in the music or entertainment industry. And it's really exciting to see him get down, with his friends in the garage. They come over, they stay over, they drink my booze, they watered the bottles down, everything that we did when we were coming up. And what I tell him, because he looks at the music industry, he's a pretty smart guy for his age. He's only 19, but he says things to me all the time like, God, being a musician is kind of a shitty occupation, isn't it? I said, well, depends how you look at it. For me, I count my lucky stars every day that I'm a musician. It's the best. To me, it's better than being president of the United States, or
I agree,
or the president of Canada.
Yeah, the prime minister. Well, listen,
Prime Minister of Canada.
I agree with you, because ultimately music brings joy, and politicians ultimately seem to bring division and all kinds of hate. So, well, so let's get into the box set. But let me just quickly start with Jane's Addiction. You started in the mid '80s out in Los Angeles, which of course was, Rat, Dawkins, Motley Crue. What was sort of the perception of the fan base when you would come in and play a bar? Did they sort of look at you and say, what is this nonsense? Or, do they go, oh, that's refreshing? How were you perceived?
Well, I was not in that circle.
Right. But that was the circle in LA at the time.
Yeah, in LA, there were a lot of kids coming to the city, Sunset Boulevard, try to make music. But by that time, things were getting really, as far as I could tell, pretty burnt out. The sound, the look. I just wasn't down with it. So I hung out with the punk rock kids, the underground. And there was a a whole other universe in the underground, you know, people that liked avant-garde and punk, uh, indie, alternative. It turned into alternative. Uh, I just, I don't want to say I ignored their scene, but I kind of did. I didn't actually play their bars. You know, you mentioned bar, like when I come into a bar, I didn't play the bars. I put my own shows on.
Right.
From the very beginning, I would find a place. Like my first gig, I found a hot dog stand. And I told the guy who owned the hot dog stand, I said, you know, if my band played here, you get a lot of people showing up to buy hot dogs. So he let me play, and I only had like 3 friends show up. They bought hot dogs, you know, because I had to fulfill my end of the bargain. But I was always looking for places to play that were not the typical bars or the typical clubs where Dokken and all those guys, you know, more power to them. I mean, they're musicians, and they're doing their best, and they're writing about their life. That's all fine. But for me, I looked at it much more. It was about art and
Right.
and pushing the medium forward, pushing the medium of sound and music forward. And yeah, I think we accomplished that. James did. You know,
I certainly think. Well, so, okay, let me quickly ask you about that, because again, I was a youngster at that time, and I remember the band. I remember watching Much Music and the videos appearing, and it seems somewhat anti-establishment and somewhat very different to, you know, what was going on with Rick Astley and Dokken and all that glitzy, glamoury stuff.
Rick
How do you, Rick? Well, I like Rick Astley.
Wait, is he the guy who sings
Never going to give you up.
"Never Gonna Give You"?
My Facebook profile is a picture of me and him. How can you not like Rick Astley?
Really? No, I do. I like to flirt with him, you know, on occasion. Send out a Rick Astley text.
But my question is how did you reconcile doing art and eventually having to do commerce, because they do cross whether you like it or not? So how did you reconcile that and move forward and say, listen, I want this to be cutting edge, I want this to be super artistic, but I need to sell a couple of albums?
Right. Well, that was more the concern of Warner Brothers.
Right.
It really, yeah, you know, who is going to sneeze at a big record contract? You know, it's what a lot of people are striving for.
Right.
I was not exactly striving for it. I try to keep away from the consciousness of money. I spend so much money on the projects themselves. As an example, so if we were to do a show or a concert, I will end up, these days, I don't care if I break even. I don't care if I lose $1 million. You know, the new project that we have, Kind Heaven Orchestra,
Mm-hmm.
I put in $1.5 million into the tool. And of course, we didn't make anywhere near that back. But my desire and what I strive for is to just put on a great concert, put on a great show. And I feel that, and I've kind of proven this, that if you lead with art, the money follows you. It's like you create a vacuum. When you do great art, money is just like a vacuum. It follows you. People eventually throw money at you, you know? We have a joke around here. You know, I'm gonna most likely have my own label in the next year.
Right.
And we're thinking of names to call it. So we keep running around with this phrase, other people's money, OPM, other people's money. But it's not good enough to be a record label name, but it's kind of an ongoing joke that we have because, you know, and that's going back to my conversation with my son when you asked me earlier about what do I tell him. I always tell him, don't do anything for money. Because if you do, it's going to be obvious. If you're trying to save money, if you're trying to be cheap and put a show on, people are going to look at your show and say they're trying to save money, or, you know what I mean? They must need money, or they're hard up for money, or they're doing it for money. Money, yeah, it can bring some happiness, but even more is an accomplishment that you've created a great piece of a great piece of art, or a great piece of music that the world can remember and fall in love with. And songs become it becomes their memories, their history.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I can recall certain times of my life. As an example, they've asked me to do a Tom Petty satellite radio program. Like, right. I would sit in, Tom Petty's got his own channel
on Sirius.
On Sirius. So they asked me to sit in and do a Tom Petty hour or so, like that. And as soon as they, brought the idea to me, I hearkened back to when I left home at the age of 17 or 18 from Miami Beach to go out to California to surf. That was the only reason I came out here, as I was chasing big waves. And I remember Tom Petty, American Girl, because it reminded me of myself, although I'm not a girl, but it seemed like he was singing about a runaway girl, who's like just took off and drove up on all 441 with the waves crashing on the beach. See what I did? I just associated my whole life and reminisced my whole life about a song.
Listen,
that song was attached to me like it was me.
But I get you, because you mentioned Tom Petty randomly just like that. And to me, I hearken back to being in a mall in Florida in 1979, my first trip to Florida, and hearing Refugee playing. And I remember walking in that mall going, what is that? That is good. And of course, in 79, we didn't really know. And then it was like, oh, that's the guy I heard in the mall. So yeah, that's what music does. And by the way, that's why it's hard for older bands, whether it's Aerosmith or Kiss or the Rolling, to make music now, because all the fans remember back how they felt when they were 10 and 12 and you just can't compete with that. And even if your music is better now, you can't compete with the memories. You just never can.
Well, now I'm gonna raise my hand here.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely understand your point of view, but I'm going to tell you something really interesting.
Yes.
I am selling so many downloads currently from the Glitz and Glamour. We've got near 5 million downloads.
Wow.
And we're not finished. The record came out, or the records box set came out like 4 months ago.
Wow.
So we're expecting to sell probably close to 10 million by the time we have.
Wow, that is.
So the reason I mentioned that is because, yeah, most people would say that, keep wearing your leather pants and shut the fuck up and just make, old-fashioned rock music. But I'm here to tell you that the world has changed so much since even the start. Jane's began maybe 30, 35 years ago. And, as a writer, you write about current events. You write about what's going on in your life. You, as a musician, you pick up the latest instruments, and that could be, an instrument could be a guitar, or it could be a native instrument. In other words, software.
Mm-hmm.
Last night I was working on a remix of the song. You remember that song, Celebrate? I just wanna celebrate.
But by the way, again, celebrate driving in the car, Florida, 1979, back to the memories.
Right?
Boy, that was a good trip, apparently.
Was, right?
Right,
So,
celebrate, and yeah. So you're remixing Celebrate?
I'm remixing it, but I recorded it myself. So not their song, but I redid it and then remixing it. You can hear it on Satellite Party.
Yeah. Of
the albums in the box set, the one song Celebrate. So I wanted to remix it and add mariachi group, which I did. So now you see what I did. I got your interest.
You do.
I'm curious, like, how's that going to work? A mariachi group with Perry Farrell and
hey, listen,
79's rockin' album, right?
Twisted Sister did a mariachi version of "We're Not Gonna Take It," so I'm all for it.
Oh, really?
They did. Yes.
So here's what I'm telling you. People, yes, there are some people that are going to be stuck in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're really stuck when it was the best time of life for them. Unfortunately, I'm sad to say it, but like when they can't move on, it's probably because back then they were the cool guy in high school. You know what I mean? And now who knows what they're up to. But these days, what I like to do is and this is what I always tell my son, if you are going to be a musician, then you're an artist. That's going to be your occupation. You are essentially a messenger. You're a messenger too. Like when you're in the arts, whether it be a writer or you have a podcast or a musician or an actor or a painter, you are a messenger. You're sending a message to the people. So you want your message to be amazing, and it's got to be current. So what's the new message? You know, there's a lot to talk about these days, right? The world is in a strange state, and we're getting close to being able to go out into the sunshine again and party.
Not in Quebec, or not. We have curfew at 8:00 at night.
Well, you know what, man? Follow the curfew because you don't want to get people sick, or you don't want to get sick, but also get vaccinated.
Yep.
Don't be afraid of it. I got vaccinated, and I'm not into vaccinations. Like I never took flu shots. I don't know about you, but like flu shot, nah, fuck that. You know, if I get the flu, I'll get it. But this is different. And I've got a lot more riding on being healthy when I go out there to perform. I've got, Lollapalooza size audiences. That's like 500,000 people over the weekend. And they all have to be not non-contagious, you know what I mean? Healthy and in a good mood. So I just concentrate on the present. And the nice thing about being a musician is you get better and better and better.
I agree.
As an art form, look at B.B. King. I mean, you just start to have a command of your instrument. In my case, it's my voice. And, producing over the years, I have a command of the studio, and it's exciting. I'm, making music that I really, truly love. I'm passionate about, and I can't wait to perform it, even now, 62.
In fact, here, let me ask you, I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to ask you about, but let me ask you about making new music. Are you at the sort of that great point in your career where you can just sort of do whatever you want without an AOR guy or a label guy or somebody breathing down your back?
Yeah.
And is it freeing? Are you sort of living this moment of freedom musically?
I love it. That's what I was telling my son. If you really want to know what I talk to him about when it comes to the industry, I tell him, you don't have to be, under somebody's, you don't have to be, worried that the record label's not going to sign you unless you do what they ask. Record labels, again, you know, people don't really understand the music industry, but there's all kind of many different tribes in the music industry. There's some that they're looking for Grammys. Others, they're looking for the Hall of Fame. Others, they're looking to impress the dance world. Others, they're looking to impress the music world through jazz, you know?
Right.
So I tell my son these days with the, you know, the way people distribute, you don't have to be on a major label. It's almost a precarious position to be in because you get dropped and you don't know what to do from there. What I've done is I've created a team around me, and we put our records out right now through Last Man, which is a label out of the UK, but they're really amazing, and they understand all the aspects of a musician's life and the presentation of the music. You know, the box set was put together with this fellow by the name of Zoltar.
Yeah.
Out of the UK. And he's one of the most amazing, strange artists.
I was going to ask you about Zoltar. He's a fantastic artist. I mean, it's just they're unique pieces, and I think that's what makes it important. Is just that you look at it and you go, yeah, that's interesting.
Beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
So as the record's spinning, and I love the idea of, you know, vinyl.
Yeah.
So all the music is pressed up vinyl, and it even has a hologram on some of them. So as the record spins, you're just looking at this come to life hologram, and underneath all of that vinyl, you'll find a Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray has the last album, Kind Heaven, that was produced by Tony Visconti.
Yeah.
And
there's a name.
It's in surround sound. So when you put on the Blu-ray, if you have a home entertainment system that has surround sound, like movie theater, if you have a home entertainment movie theater,
yeah,
you'll hear Kind Heaven in the round. It'll surround you, like, you know, my delay systems that I use, they go all around your head like angels.
Yeah, and by the way, that's why I personally love listening to stuff on headphones, because you can hear it sort of whoosh around, and that's what I love. That's what I love about that. Let me just quickly get you over to Ultra Payloaded, which was the satellite party. This one was interesting to me because, you know, we spoke before, as in the 80s, you really didn't want to do anything of that sort of, you know, hair metal, glam metal stuff. And yet here you sort of, you get in there and you're working with two guys from Extreme. You're working with Kevin and Nuno. Talk to me about bringing sort of those two worlds together. One more of a sort of a pop rock kind of world, and yours, because the album is fantastic. And what Kevin and what Nuno, and of course the other people, Eddie and all that, it really is a unique piece. And is that something you want to do again and work with Nuno? Because he's a master. I mean, he's a master.
Nuno's an incredible guitar player. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But we got into a fight. Well,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know it is unfortunate. You know, like these days, I think I've been thinking back to all the people I've gotten into fights with, and thinking like, man, I want to make up with them before I die. How do I do it?
You know,
like,
you pick up the phone and you phone them.
Ready. Yeah.
Yeah,
we got over the business. It was a fight over the business, but we did great work together. So to tell you a little bit about the process, I was, one day I was at Harry Gregson Williams' recording studio. Harry Gregson Williams is an incredible film composer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working at the time at Abbey Road studio conducting, told me something like a 60-piece or an 80-piece orchestra for one of the film scores. And I hope I don't get him in trouble here, but he said, you know, I came to him, I said, would you be up for arranging some orchestra for these songs. I played him the record, and he came back with like, I want to do this one, I want to do this one. So on the dime of the movie producer, didn't know, but Harry took some time to arrange for the satellite parties. You have like an 80-piece orchestra on there, right?
Yeah, which is great.
And what I like to do, I like to create these days. Why it's so exciting for me to even talk about music is I love orchestra. I love that period in time, 1940s, where jazz was first coming up. And there was, Count Basie Orchestra, Duke Ellington Orchestra, Cab Calloway and his orchestra. And just how well rehearsed and the performances, the musicians were, it was almost like teams. It was almost like professional sport teams where the musicians would feel like my orchestra is the baddest orchestra, and they would go up there and they would try to outdo the other orchestra. And but today we have software and we have synthesizers. So I love taking organic, analog, and mixing it with digital to round the sound out, because I love bass.
Yeah.
I really love the subs that we can get through the digital production. And you can get lost working for days just playing around with the software packages. Right now, like I say, I'm remixing. So essentially when you remix, I'm taking, I just recorded Mike Watt, the famous Mike Watt from the Minutemen, the Stooges, bass player, and for Pyros. So Mike came in, recorded, mariachis recorded, and then we sat down and we had some good old-fashioned synthesizer fun, working with sound waves and changing the sound wave, creating loops, and then drum, real drum mixed with electronic drum pads. And man, you could just, it's just, like I say, it's beyond money, way beyond money. The excitement that I feel from creating it, I'm going to assume people are going to have the same kind of excitement when they hear it.
Yeah, well, they you can actually sense that in a band, and I don't want to start naming names, but there are some bands where you listen to their first few albums and they were doing it because they were young and hungry, and you just go, yeah, I get that. And then they started whatever being corporate, or you just go, oh, it sounds kind of vacuous.
Right.
But I know you're trying.
Yeah, because it's known around the industry. It used to be known anyway.
Yeah.
When Jane's was coming up, that a record company gives an act 3 albums. They usually sign them to 3 to 5 if they, that's like slavery.
That was 40 years ago. Now you get 1 single.
Right. But what my point was that by the 3rd record, that's when they start screwing you tight. They're like, no, we need a hit.
Yeah.
And that's when they start to really suck, because the record company thinks, now I got them. They got a taste of the money and the fame, and now I'm going to get out of them what I really wanted, which is a super sucky pop song.
Yep. And they bring in the song doctors and they clean everything up, and you just like, oh my God.
Right. And then you vomit, and then you cry.
And then you break up. Real quick,
and you break up, right?
And you break up. Yeah. There was an unearthed recording of Jim Morrison on here, and I have to admit, when I first read the press release months ago and I saw this, I went, oh, he's doing a cover song. This is poorly written. It's like, no, but it actually is Jim Morrison. So tell me the story of getting that track, because How do you just randomly come along and find an unearthed Jim Morrison recording?
Yeah, that fell right into my lap. One day, this was back around year 2000.
Wow.
I got a message, an email maybe. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some kind of communication through telecommunication from Israel.
Wow.
People I didn't know told me that they had unreleased material of Jim Morrison's and that Jim told them to give it to me.
Okay, but all right.
But I said, okay. So I said, well, that sounds really interesting. I said, well, so are you telling me, are you saying, you know, is Jim there? They said, well, we communicate with him. And so I heard a woman's voice. So it was a guy who was definitely from Israel. He had like that Israeli like
accent.
Give to you, you know, this and that. So I said, well, all right. So send it to me and let me listen to it. And they did. And there was 9 tracks.
Oh, wow.
And when I heard them, I mean, I was tripping out because, you know, Jim's one of my heroes.
Of course.
And so to hear his voice, it sounded like it was beyond the grave. You're hearing someone talking to you that had. So I started thinking, like, is he alive and hiding out in Israel? What is going on here? I brought the tracks to their the estate of Jim Morrison, because it was just Jim. It wasn't the Doors.
Right.
Just his voice. He was singing a cappella. And they told me, you know, look, I said, I would love to take this material. What do you think? And produce it. So the good news was that they allowed me to do it. The estate, you know, his family gave me permission to do it, but they took it out of the hands of these people from Israel. And I always felt terrible about that, because I felt like, oh no, they're gonna assume that I just like, I ripped it from their hands.
You screwed them over.
Yeah, I screwed them over. So what I'm doing is that all the money that I would make from
that track
publishing,
right,
I'm looking to bring peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And that's what my goal is. And I'm using that song. So if you listen to the song, there's a line in there that says, open your window, woman of Palestine, throw down your raiment and cover us over. Just try and stop us. We're going to love.
Yeah.
So I kind of using that as our kind of song
marching, right?
As we head into.
Did they ever tell you how they came into those songs? I mean, did they?
No, and I still don't know, and I still haven't met them.
Wow.
But I have ambitions to go there. As I tell you, I'm serious. I want to go there and have a party in Israel and have another one in Palestine. And I had a Palestinian woman by the name of Sameh remix the track, and another remix done by Guy Gerber, who's out of Israel.
And to
bring them together through music.
And so the estate validated that this was Jim and this is not some elaborate hoax. Wow.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. Before we go, because we're already at half an hour here, but Lollapalooza, I just want to quickly talk to you about that, because, you know, and I'm going to go from my experience and then I'll ask you about this, but I remember in the late 80s, there was the Monsters of Rock tour with, you know, again, Dokken and Kingdom Come and all. And Lollapalooza, to me at the time, seemed like the antithesis, like we're going to do all these other bands, the other side of the music industry. You know, and yes, it was couched in the it's a farewell kind of tour thing, but was there sort of a counter reaction saying, okay, we're not going to be the glitzy glamoury Monsters of Rock, we're going to be the down and dirty new kids on the block kind of just talk to me about launching that and the idea behind it.
it wasn't as conscious as that.
Okay.
It wasn't as conscious a decision. These were my friends. I mean, you know, we were touring with Henry Rollins all the time. We were touring with Primus, and so they were just kind of, they were our peers, really. Butthole Surfers.
Yeah.
Susie and the Banshees was a group that when I first started with Psycom, we loved groups. It was kind of a goth group.
Yeah,
and we loved
totally.
Susie. So she was just a choice out of, you know, admiration. And then we started to piece things together. Mark Geiger knew of this group, 9 Inch Nails, that had not broken. They had their first record out, and I was very curious and you know, anxious to meet
them.
Yeah, them. They went on to be, you know, quite legendary, and they also Trent altered the course of music. You know, he introduced kind of the industrial sound meets the rock, the stadium rock, and it was vicious and compelling and everything else. But no, that they were really, the way I would kind of, I would say that they were really from my record collection. It was that simple. It was the people I was listening to, putting on my record player, and my friends. You know, when we go to each other's apartments, part of what you did back in those days is, you know, you put on your record collection and had people over and see if you can get laid or at least make a connection, right?
No, but it's interesting how much it changed the industry, because a lot of those bands at the time, we looked at them, or the industry looked, they're club acts, they're little, you know, they're small fry, and then you put them all together and it became huge, and people went, oh, yeah, we have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And they did.
And next thing you know, everybody's starting to sound like grunge, and that got goofy
very fast.
but that's what happens in the world. Something great happens. People see that, wow, that is actually breaking a mold, but now it's what people are starting to mold into, and then that gets I don't want to say ugly and overly used, and so there's a need to kind of throw a hand grenade and blow the whole damn thing up.
Well, and I'm going to ask you about the hand grenade, because come 96, you invite Metallica on there. And I'll talk to you from the Metallica fan perspective, as I was one. We looked at it and we went, what the are they doing? Why are they on that kooky bill?
Right.
But again, it broke the barriers. Talk to me a little bit about the decision of bringing them in, because all of a sudden you were crossing the two worlds, the heavy metal with the underground, and we looked at it and went, this is stupid. And yet it was one of the greatest things you've ever done.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was at first not down with it, because
of course nobody was.
What Metallica was, I thought, like, that is the dividing line.
Yes.
But they were evolving at that time. And to put them next to the Ramones, that was a genius move. That kind of showed that,
yes,
again, don't be afraid to change. If it's in your heart and you're genuinely feeling it, go with it. As an artist, you can't lose. If you're following your gut instincts, go with it.
Yeah, because when it was announced on paper, everybody from both sides just went, this is dumb. And then it went through it and everybody went, oh, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. And it was.
Yeah, and we've become friends over the years. I've got a really good friend from Venice who's playing bass with them now, Robert.
Yep.
And I've gotten to know those guys better over the years, and they have remained a force in music. So
100%.
yeah, hats off to them.
And let's wrap up with these two questions. Earlier, you mentioned you had a record label that you're trying to get launched. What will be the sort of the philosophy of that? Is it let's go find some cool new bands and let's develop a new thing, or is it like, hey, let's find what works and let's go sign Metallica if they're available? What's sort of the philosophy?
Yeah, the first order. The first order of business is to remain true to thyself. I'm mostly thinking of, a place where I can just put out and distribute my own music. And then as I have gotten more and more into remixing, so what the system I'm working with now is I record a song. It's not a dance song,
right?
But it will be remixed after. So I will do the song, a remix of the song, so that becomes like digital dance, and also an acoustic angle. So you have 3 places where you can place it. So you can play that song in the quiet moments of, let's say 2, 3 in the morning,
right.
Or you can play it at midnight, or you can play it, coffee, when you're getting coffee in the morning with an acoustic of it. So I just like to play with sound, play with production. And, I'm also working with, this goes back to, your comment to me about, not wanting to change. A lot of people just don't know how to change. One way to do it is work with young artists.
Yep.
So I am going to be looking for young artists, but not just to sign them. I'm not looking to be a record mogul. I
right.
just enjoy the company, and I enjoy the process of writing. So as an example, there's a group, Starcrawler,
right,
out of Los Angeles. And I think they're an amazing young group. There's another group called The Claws, but not Claus, The Claws, Claus.
Like Santa Claus. Or no, like a clause in the contract. Okay.
Right. So I wrote a song with Starcrawler, and I'm currently writing a song with The Claws. So I am, so I really enjoy working with young
yes.
groups that are coming up. They're fiery and they're energetic, and they haven't burnt out or become jaded, and it's exciting. So there's a chance that in the future we would discover somebody new, but I'm not in a rush for it. It's not about money. It's not about being a record mogul. It's about staying vital with art,
but also imparting some wisdom. I mean, yes, it's nice to have new blood as a listener, but also you're imparting knowledge, so it benefits both parties, which is great. Yeah. And well, really cool. I'll end on this because I could go on for another 2 hours, but the Glitz and Glamour is out now. Is that sort of a period at the end of the sentence for this kind of music and you start something fresh and new? Or the question basically being, where are we going in the future? Is there like a new studio album coming out soon? Are you excited? What's next for Perry?
Well, so I have in the studio on the books, I'm putting out three songs with a mariachi group.
I can't wait.
One of them is a Stop remix. So the song Stop, and Stop, Celebrate, and He's a Rebel, which was a song that was originally produced by Phil Spector.
Wow.
Sung by Darlene Love. I believe, from the Crystals. Working on that track. Maceo Plex is an incredible digital producer. I just finished a collaboration with him. I have the Claw's new song to record. Sasha from Sasha and Digweed is remixing a song that I did with Flea called Milky Avenue. That's on Satellite Party. So by August, I'm going to do a special for Amazon Coda. It's going to be a retrospective with my friends. And then right after that, if people will all get vaccinated and we can start gathering together, I'm going to be ready for some club dates and after parties by August.
And hopefully we'll get you up to Canada at some point. Listen,
yeah, I have two songs by Porno for Pyros that are almost finished. They just have to be mixed now. And I've got another one from Jane's Addiction.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah. See, life's going great, and on that, as you can hear over there, the dog is trying to break into the room. But Perry, this has been absolutely terrific, an absolute pleasure. I had a chance to interview Mr. Perkins about a month ago, and both of you have just been terrific, wonderful.
That's good, man.
Absolutely, and
drummer too.
Yeah, not a bad drummer. Just remind the folks, the Glitz, the Glamour available now, 6 CDs, Blu-ray box set, Psy.com, everything's remastered. And as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup.
Oh, merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mitch. Thank you, brother.